Alright everyone, it's Tuesday morning. Thanks for watching me again, it's much appreciated. What have we got on today? Well, it's award season, so we're going to take a look at that. Exciting stuff, plenty of Celtic nominations in there. Current Celtic players, maybe a future Celtic player as well. There was also news yesterday of Jota's injury, so we're going to take a bit of a look at that, what happened to him, how long he could potentially be out for. The big question, will he be back for our big Champions League qualifier? As I say, we can look at that. There's a derby this weekend as well. Celtic fans will be back at Ibrox for the first time in a number of years, back in the Broom Loan for the first time since 2018. And we'll have a bit of fun as well. Let's just kick off with the Jota stuff then, no messing about today. Report from Robert Grieve at the Scottish Sun that landed annoyingly just after yesterday's video went up, so yesterday morning, saying Celtic are braced or were braced for confirmation yesterday that Jota's season is over. So just a bit of a recap, he went off with an injury after a bit of a collision with Dundee United's Alan Campbell in the first half on Saturday, 33 minutes into the game. And yeah, at the time it looked like it was like a collision and kind of an impact injury. I'm not sure if that can cause significant time off or if it's more likely to have been like the way he's landed or the way he's twisted something. I feel like it probably is. But yeah, you could tell pretty quickly that Jota was in a lot of discomfort. He returned after the game to do a bit of celebrating. He was waving his crutches up in the air, Alistair Johnson style from a couple of years ago. Or was it Cameron Carter-Vickers? It was one of the two was doing it. I think it was Johnson, wasn't it, after the semi-final win against Rangers when he went off with an injury. But yeah, the report says that Jota will miss months due to the injury, which Brendan Rodgers mentioned being his meniscus, which I believe is part of your knee. There you go. That would rule him out for the rest of the season, clearly, and potentially the start of next season. Just a few key dates for you. The new Premiership season kicks off on the weekend of August the 2nd and 3rd. Our Champions League playoff first leg, remember we've only got one round of qualifying to come through. The first leg of that takes place on August the 19th or 20th. Now, I believe, having counted it, that that's 16 weeks from now. So plenty of time for Jota to recover from this. I don't know if he requires surgery or what the story's going to be. But also a pretty serious injury and one that the club are going to have to take their time with. And they obviously will do that. Does remind me a little bit of Cameron Carter-Vickers having a similar-ish injury a couple of years ago. Slightly different in that I think Carter-Vickers had been dealing with a knee problem for like the majority of that season. And then you'll remember he played in that cup semi against Rangers that I'm talking about, and then basically was given the rest of the season off. He went for surgery and I think made it back for like the final pre-season game of the new season. Unfortunately, after a couple of games, he then picked up another injury and missed a couple of weeks. I think it was Aberdeen was his last game. Didn't return until that Lazio one when he came on and made the mistake. It was a hamstring injury the second time, so I don't know if that was directly linked to the knee injury. Why am I telling you all this? Not really sure. Basically just evidence, I think, of how you've got to take these things extremely seriously, which I'm sure they'll be doing at the club. In terms of short-term stuff, yeah, we're not going to see Jota for the rest of the season, I wouldn't think. And the obvious beneficiary, if that's an okay word to use, would be Adam Idah. I think he's probably going to start the majority of our games for the rest of the season. You're going to have Daizen Maeda going back to the left, which, to be honest, he's kind of been playing mainly over the past few weeks, so no issues there. Probably not a bad thing for Idah either. We also have like James Forrest and Hyun Jun Yang there possibly as well, who could come in and take one of the wing spots. So that's all well and good. I'm expecting a Celtic TV interview with Brendan Rodgers this week. I just get that feeling, just having won the league last weekend and got a derby coming up, and the fact there's such a long kind of wait to hear from him at Friday's press conference. I just sense we're going to get something from Celtic TV either today or tomorrow, looking at the weekend, looking ahead to the derby, and hopefully get an update on Jota at that stage, a bit like we did with Kasper Schmeichel. But all in all, disappointing for Jota. I think more so for next season. We'd all be hoping that he was going to get like a full pre-season under his belt, was going to start next season really quickly. That may be difficult for him now, but I do think Celtic are going to be all right. I don't think it's like completely damaging to hopes of winning a treble. Hopefully he's back for the biggest game of next season, which will be that Champions League playoff tie, well, biggest games of the season. Even if he's not though, it's just an opportunity for someone else to come in. Elsewhere, we had the PFA Scotland Award nominations yesterday. Premiership Player of the Year nominees. 3 of the 4 are Celtic players, which is slightly unusual. Probably happened before, but I feel like it's normally 2, and then they do it. To be honest, you could have 4 Celtic players. But I'm not going to begrudge Simon Murray of Dundee being in there. He's had a great season, 20 goals in all competitions, which is pretty good for Dundee. The Celtic players, Callum McGregor, Dyson Maida, Nicholas Kuhn. I think all fair enough. I'm slightly surprised maybe Kasper Schmeichel's not in there, given the impact he's had on us. I think, I don't know, maybe short memory slightly, the fact he's been out injured for the past month or so, if that. And I don't know, maybe his form had kind of tailed off a little bit from what we saw in the first half of the season, but no doubt for me he should be in there. But I can't really, as I say, I can't really begrudge any of the Celtic players either. Callum McGregor's had a pretty good season. Nicholas Kuhn did enough in the first half alone to be nominated here. But yeah, Dyson's going to win it. We even had Callum McGregor yesterday saying, I think we all know who's going to win this. He did reveal, though, who he's voted for, and I didn't actually know that players couldn't vote for players from their own team. Now, I guess when you think about it, that makes a bit of sense, because otherwise voting would just be skewed because, like, I don't know, think of a bad team in the league. Rangers, for example, like their players would just be voting for, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good player from Rangers and I'm kind of struggling. But you know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't necessarily be voting for Celtic, whereas when you put it onto another team, I guess you get a more fair vote. So Callum McGregor voted for Simon Murray, says he's had a really good season. Young Player of the Year. So Arnie Engels is up for this with Hamza Egeman of Rangers, James Wilson of Hearts, and Lennon Miller of Motherwell. And a wee look at our midfield for next season. A nice early meeting for Engels and Miller, who will be leading us in the middle of the park next season. Given the hype around Lennon Miller, I guess he's the favourite for that one. The other Celtic player up for an award is women's defender Emma Lawton. She's up for SWPL Player of the Year alongside Ailey Adams from Hibs, Katie Wilkinson from Rangers, and Samantha Van Diemen of Glasgow City. And having said all that, do you really care? I know it's a horrible thing to say, but I just struggle to kind of get too motivated by the who's going to win the PFA award. It's not something that massively matters to me. We all know Dyson's going to win the main award, and he definitely deserves that. But other than that, it's just a kind of box ticking thing for me at the end of the season. But we have ticked that box. We're starting to focus on the derby. There is a derby this weekend. The Celtic players will be back at Lennoxtown today, after being given a couple of days off to celebrate the title win. What have they been doing? Well, Paulo Bernardo's taken the time to dress his dog, who he refers to as our little champ. Not really sure about that, to be honest. That would be a fine in my book. But anyway, this gives me a perfect excuse to air some dog-related Celtic player puns. What have we got? Okay, Mutt O'Reilly. Get it? Kennel Dalglish. What about that one? Bark Crow's Ass. Just a bit of a rogue one. Badder Spaniel Kaduri. Yeah. Anyway, as I say, we are now gearing up for a derby on Sunday, and it's I still think a pretty meaningful derby to us all. A couple of years ago we went to Ibrox the week after we won the league at Tynecastle, a very similar situation in terms of the way the fixtures fell. And we lost that at Ibrox. We were hopeless. And I remember the Player of the Year event, the Celtics Player of the Year event was the following night because I was there. And the players couldn't have been less bothered about losing the derby the previous day. It didn't really matter to them. The league was won. Rangers got their victory under Michael Beale, I think it was, and everything kind of worked out all right. Bit different this year, I think, and that we've just won the league and all this, the normal celebrations have happened, and we're all absolutely buzzing with the team winning another league title and the consistency they've shown. But I do think there's a fair bit riding on this weekend in terms of how we feel about the season. And I know I've already seen comments, and as I say, everyone's always just entitled to their own opinion, and I've seen a lot of comments saying, I don't really care what happens in the derbies. If we win the league every single season and lose every single derby, I'll be more than happy. You won't be. I guarantee you that, because as much as winning the league is the main thing, and I'm not disputing that, losing every derby is pretty miserable. And I know we've not lost every derby this season, but if we were to lose again on Sunday and lose 3 derbies in a row, that is going to leave a bit of a bitter taste in people's mouths about this season. Again, a treble would still be an amazing achievement, but I guarantee at the end of the campaign, you're just going to feel something in the back of your mind or wherever else about the fact that we haven't turned up in these derbies. So as much as the team have won the league, I think we're all still expecting a big performance. And when you look at the state Rangers seem to be going in, I'm really enjoying just Barry Ferguson just every single week just seeming more disillusioned with what's happened to his once glorious club. Meanwhile, Celtic are just winning and scoring loads of goals, and he's just getting more exasperated as every week goes on. So Rangers are there to be beaten on Sunday, but that's been the case in the past couple of derbies and we've not done it. So it's over to the team. In terms of off the field stuff, Celtic fans back at Ibrox at the weekend, as I said, the top of the show. A big Celtic support as well will be in the Broom loan, the official Broom loan for the first time since the day that broke them. Odsonne Edouard's goal in 2018. So what do we know about the Hoop support at Ibrox? Well, we know that we're going to have around 4% of the stadium. That's the same that Rangers got at Celtic Park 6 weeks or so ago. Now this equates to around 2,000 tickets, and Celtic SLO John Paul Taylor confirmed that 2,000 is indeed the allocation that we have. So it'll look something like this, maybe a slightly smaller allocation. But unlike Rangers fans at Celtic Park, you'll see our fans very clearly on the TV broadcast, much to their frustration. It's likely that those lucky enough to have a ticket for the Celtic end at Ibrox will have to be there a good few hours before kick-off. I was looking back into it. I believe Rangers fans had to be at Celtic Park or the Emirates Arena near Celtic Park for 10 a.m. For a 12:30 kick-off a number of weeks ago. So that's 2.5 hours before kick-off. So you'd expect something similar for Celtic fans going to Ibrox on Sunday. The SLO John Paul Taylor, again, he has said that they'll be releasing details pretty soon about what's going to happen with the fixture, but expect it to be pretty stringent, I guess, in terms of getting Celtic fans in. I just think it's going to add a really good element to Sunday's game. I'm already more excited for it, knowing that we're going to have fans at Ibrox. I know not everyone agrees that Rangers fans should be allowed at Celtic Park. I think we all agree that we want to have Celtic fans at Ibrox when we go there, and obviously you can't have one really without the other. So looking forward to that. Good quotes from Callum McGregor on the game as well, saying we won the one that mattered, and again that's mentality. Not that the other ones don't matter, but there was one where there's a trophy on the line and we get over the line with that one. I know the narrative around the games has been that Rangers have been the better team. Better when you look at results, yes, probably. The only way for us to turn that narrative on the outside is to go there and win. If we do that, then everything I'm saying here is vindicated. So that's the pressure that we want to put on ourselves. I just really hope that the Celtic dressing room feels the same way as the fans do. and we're going into this game to really put the record straight and show how much of a better team we are than them. Again, we've won the league last week, that's fine, but as a Celtic player you need to go forward, and the past few derbies haven't been good enough. Show us what you can do on Sunday. Cal McGregor also full of praise for Brendan Rodgers, saying that he never doubted it was the right decision to bring him back to the club. He gave an example from Brendan Rodgers' first spell at the club, just of the standards and how Rodgers drives the team forward. And it was us winning the League Cup in Brendan Rodgers' second season, first time round. We beat Motherwell in the League Cup final, and then went to Fir Park a couple of days later to play them in the league. And I think we drew that game and were a bit off it, and maybe some of the players felt that was acceptable, and I think Brendan Rodgers let them know after the game that wasn't acceptable. That at Celtic you've got to always strive to be at your top level and winning games, and you get to celebrate your successes at the end of the season, not a few days after when you're meant to be playing. So I enjoyed that from the captain. And yeah, we've got a derby on Sunday. Also got a derby tonight. I didn't actually know about this, but the Glasgow Cup final is taking place this evening. That's Tuesday night. Celtic B versus Rangers B. It's going to take place at Firhill. The game is live on Celtic TV. It's also been shown live by Premier Sports. I'm just going to get you a kick-off time because I forgot to note this down. Kick-off is at 7 p.m, I believe. But that's the only way you're going to see it on Celtic TV or Premier Sports, because they've not actually made tickets available for this at Firhill, which is a typically frustrating Scottish football move, but I guess their fear would be that there'd be some sort of trouble at the game. I know there has been in previous years. So that's happening tonight. Another derby on Sunday. Celtic fans back at Ibrox, and hopefully the time for a party. We've got a few days still to build up to that one. I'll return tomorrow to keep that going.